Hello, my friends. Hello, and welcome once again to stately Vaughan Manor, where Roger and I have returned because it's Wednesday. That means it's Epic Comic Book Wednesday. Every Wednesday, we'll talk about a certain comic book, graphic novel, or comic book subject. Steve Donoghue over on his channel will talk about the same comic book, graphic novel, or comic book subject. It is our world's finest team up that we do once a week. And this week, we're talking about Queen of the Black Coast, which is a story written by Robert E. Howard. It is Cimmerian September, after all, and we are talking about one of the greatest Conan stories ever written by Robert E. Howard. But it's Epic Comic Book Wednesday, so we're actually going to be talking about a comic book version of this. And there have been a few comic book versions of this. We are going to be talking about the one that was published by Marvel Comics back in the 1970s, written by Roy Thomas, illustrated by Big John Buscema. And it was interesting that the way this was done. So, Queen of the Black Coast is one of the greatest Conan stories ever written. It's magnificent, just a wonderful story. And Roy Thomas, I think, had been thinking about how he was going to handle Queen of the Black Coast for a while. He did it in a really interesting way. So in Queen of the Black Coast, Conan meets Belit, the pirate queen, and he joins her band of pirates. I mean, he didn't really have much of a choice, but he was happy to go along with this as soon as he saw Belit. And he joins this band of pirates, and that's the start of the story. And then in the middle of the story, it's like, okay, and then he joined the band of pirates, and he was with the pirates for a long, long time. And then there's the end of the story, after Conan had been a member of this pirate crew for, a while. And Roy Thomas decided he would do the first part of the story, and then just write a whole series of issues about Conan at the time when he was sailing and having adventures with Belit, the pirate queen, the Queen of the Black Coast. And he did a lot of issues just about those two and their crew having adventures. And I thought that was an interesting and kind of bold choice, because that was the comic book for a long time, Conan and Belit as pirates. And so I had to break out a couple Marvel Comics omnibuses for this, because I don't have either one of the original issues that I'm going to be talking about today. So I broke out my comic book omnibuses, my Marvel Comics Conan omnibuses. This is omnibus number 3, and there's Conan and Belit there on her pirate ship. Great cover. And the actual story where this starts, the adaptation of Queen of the Black Coast, starts in Conan issue number 58. There's Conan issue number 58 there, where he meets the Pirate Queen. Here it starts, Queen of the Black Coast starts with Conan on the run. You see, he got into a little trouble in this town, this seacoast town, and he was hauled in to the courts, and he had to split a judge's head in half. These things happen. And you actually saw that happen in the previous issue, which was illustrated by Mike Plug. But here he is. He's already in trouble. And this is actually how Robert E. Howard's story started, with this very scene. I happen to think that the issues that Roy Thomas does adapting Queen of the Black Coast is probably the best comic book version I've seen of it. It's my favorite. But I am kind of... John Buscema is my favorite Conan artist. So he rides down to the port. He jumps onto a ship and says, "Go. You have to go," because he's being chased. And the captain of the ship has good sense. He sees, well, if I don't go, he's going to, start killing people on my ship. So we better leave. So they do. And he tells the story of why, he tells the captain the story of why he was on the run. And there's Conan there cutting the judge's head in half. You don't actually see it. You just get this back view, which is unfortunate. Of course, we all wanted to see him cut the judge's head in half Oh well. What do you do? Comics code, man. And so this is a merchant ship, and Conan for a while joins the merchant ship. And the merchant's like, yeah, we do a lot of trading up along this coast, and everything's fine, except for, you got to watch out for pirates. Hopefully that won't happen. Uh-oh, here come the pirates. And so he's already told Conan about Belit, this mysterious pirate queen who has her own pirate ship, and, they hunt ships all along this coast. And so when he sees the sail and he realizes who it is, the captain's like, oh, hell, we've got a fight on our hands. And boy, do they. And there is Belit there, and there are her pirates. And they come swarming over the side of the boat. Conan tries to hold them off with arrows, and he gets quite a few of them. But no, there's too many of them. And they swarm over. And Conan is in the fight of his life. Well, he's often in the fight of his life, but he's vastly outnumbered. The merchant crew cannot hold off these pirates, and it looks like it's curtains for our pal Conan. Man, how's he going to get out of this? Well, he gets out of it because the pirate queen takes one look at Conan and says, "Damn, I like this guy. I'm keeping him." So she does. She spares Conan's life. And in this version of the story, Conan has to fight this one guy here on the ship. And then Belit does her Belit pirate dance. That's a thing that the pirates did in the Hyborian Age. They did a sexy pirate dance on the deck of the ship. It's a weird thing, but that's how it was in the Hyborian Age. If we never get to see Conan do this, it's probably just as well. So Conan is, he's the first mate of this pirate ship now, because Belit wants him, and Conan's like, okay. And then we have a whole series of adventures of Conan and Belit. So that all happened that was the first part of the story in issue 58. But we don't get to the end of the story until issue 100. So it was over 40 issues of Conan on the high seas with Belit. Now, here come the spoilers for Queen of the Black Coast, everybody. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Well, the cover's kind of a spoiler. Uh-oh. It's death on the Black Coast. So this is the end of the story. This is the story where Belit, his pirate queen, dies. So we finally get to the end of the story in issue 100. And the end of the story is just dynamite. The conclusion of the story. So there is this black river, and there's rumors of a city at the end of this river full of treasure, but nobody has returned who has gone to look for it. But Belit is greedy as hell. Now, she's tough, she's strong, she's awesome, but she's greedy, man. That's probably why she's a pirate, frankly. And so she says, Conan, let's go and get this treasure. And this is the point of the story where Conan and Belit have this conversation. Conan, do you fear the gods? And he was like, I would not tread on their shadow. What of your gods? I've never heard you call on them for aid. Only swear by them. And Conan says, their chief is Crom. He dwells on a great mountain. What use to call on him? Little he cares if men live or die. Better to be silent than to call his attention to you. He will send you dooms, not fortune. He is grim and loveless, but at birth he breathes power to strive and slay into a man's soul. What else shall men ask of the gods? And what of life after death, my lover? I know not, nor do I care. I know only this. Let me live deep while I live. while philosophers brood. I live, I burn with life. I love, I slay, and I am content. Now, that is a version of what Robert E. Howard has Conan say in the actual story. It's close. Roy Thomas did that. He would come pretty close to what Robert E. Howard said when he adapts the stories, but he changed it a little bit. And Belit says, you know what, if I die and if you were ever in trouble, I would come back. I would come back to save you. And it looks like he might need saving at some point, because here he is fighting a great giant snake that pops its head out of the swamp. So, you know, if you go down one of these spooky ass swamps looking for a lost city in the Hyborian Age, you know you're going to run into some trouble. And they do right away. So here they are. They found the city. And John Buscema's art in this is just fantastic. He just does an incredible job. He knew how great this story was. And so he really did a wonderful job on this story. And it does follow the story pretty much exactly, this part of the story. They do find the treasure. It does cost a couple of crew members' lives, which Belit kind of saw coming, but she didn't care. She wanted the treasure so much. She didn't care so much about a couple of her crew members dying, as long as she gets the treasure. And there she is. She's found the treasure. Awesome. But unfortunately, while they're all hanging out getting the treasure, some monster has come along and destroyed their water supply on the ship. Damn. And so Conan has to go find some more water, because as you see, the water supply has been destroyed by this mysterious monster. And so while they're looking, Conan runs into the Black Lotus, which is a flower that can put you to sleep. And it gives him visions of this race of beings, this winged race of beings who lived long ago in this city. But over time, they degenerated into these horrible winged monsters who know how to use magic. And at one point, we have these warriors come along, and this monster, the last monster who lives in this city, the last inhabitant, turns all these warriors into a pack of hyenas. That sucks. That sucks for them. They're a bunch of hyenas. So Conan wakes up and he's like, where the hell are my warriors? Look at that. That's awesome. And it turns out they've all been killed or driven insane. And like this one guy, Magora, has been driven insane. And Conan is forced to kill him just to keep himself from dying, because, he's attacked. And so Conan's worried about Belit. So he rushes through the jungle, and that's what he finds. And just look at Conan's expression there. This is not an expression you ever see on Conan's face. But you see it here with Belit, who's been hanged from the yardarm there. It's just tragic. So this is the big tragedy of Conan's life, because this is the love of his life, Belit. Never again, really, did he find anybody that he cared about this much. So he has to get revenge. And so all alone with some arrows, he goes on top of this pyramid, and the hyenas come, and he takes them out one by one. And he has this great, very well illustrated battle with the hyenas. But then the winged monster comes. Here comes the winged monster. One of the columns comes down of the temple where he's at, and he's trapped beneath it, and he can't reach his sword. And here comes the monster. This is a very John Buscema monster, by the way. It's pretty awesome. And this is the moment where Belit comes back from the dead, just as she promised that she would. And she holds off the monster long enough for Conan to get out from under this big column there and grab his sword. Just a great moment, which was lifted a version of this was lifted for the Conan movie. And he fights off the monster, and then he's left all on his own. The crew, all dead. The love of his life, dead. The pirate queen, she's gone. And then we have this wonderful, wonderful panel, full page splash page here of Belit's funeral. He gives her his own version of a Viking funeral here in the Hyborian Age. And he actually, in this version of it, Conan actually sheds a tear. The only time he's going to do this, really, is for Belit. And that's it. That's the end of the story. And this is a huge, important part of Conan's life. And it was just done so magnificently in the Marvel Comics version. And it's just so interesting the way Roy Thomas did it, and that he did the first part, and then he actually took the time to have all of these adventures and build up this character of Belit in a way that couldn't have been done in the original story. So you actually had years, when you were reading this at the time, you had years of adventures with Belit. It actually took as much time to publish these comics as it took, for Conan to actually, in the story, have adventures with Belit. It was a long time. And so it was that much more effective when you got to the end of the story and Belit, this character you've spent so much time with, is killed. So it was a bold choice on Roy Thomas's part to do it that way. And it just worked out spectacularly. And the actual issues where the story is adapted they're just great, particularly issue 100. Great stuff. So yeah, that's Epic Comic Book Wednesday today. Check out Steve Donoghue later on, and I will catch you next time.